little bit shorter. Denitse, sekuse, skyze, sai Michele Jones setne. Thank you for having me here. Snachalia Notley for having us here on your beautiful territory. And I'm calling out Serena because I'm going to get her to take me down by the river later before I leave because I've heard it's really beautiful. I also want to acknowledge that I'm stepping in for Julie Dom. I don't have her flu vogs, but I'm here to represent her really well, I hope. So thank you for having us. The Justice Department's been doing a lot of growing over the last year, and so I wanted to ask my team if they feel comfortable to please come up and stand with me, because they're an amazing team. We have 5 specific programs, and that's Child and Youth Advocacy Center, the Collaborative Practices Team, Traditional Decision Making, Calls for Justice, and Special Projects. Do I do the click? And so we'll talk a little bit about collaborative practice and the traditional decision making. So TDM, they held a 2-day think tank in May of 2025, and they gathered together the leaders and knowledge holders within CSFS to talk about how this is going to move forward and how, you know, we want to have 6 facilitators, TDM facilitators out in community. We're also going to be having a new position in TDM, and that will be an educator that's going to develop and design curriculum. Because the main goal of TDM is to lay the foundation in CSFS programs to move forward and honor Carrier and Sekani traditions. And so Collaborative Practices has already been doing some of that culturally safe collaboration with meetings. And just in the last year, they held 146, I believe, 146 meetings. And their goal is to ensure that the collaboration with family, community, and MCFD are coming together in a culturally informed way and keeping the best interests of the children and family at the center of the decision making. So yeah, 146 meetings, that's amazing. They've also have 4 staff now. They're up to 4 staff in collaborative practices. And so for you to understand, collaborative practices are who are going to work within Prince George, so the urban centers, and then the TDM facilitators will work out in reserve and community. It will be culturally informed. They have already been meeting and practicing from that cultural lens. I think, yeah. It's really about strengthening relationships. So they'll work closely with Jaylene as she moves into the clan house manager position, and so she left collaborative practices. We're going to miss her, but she's going to do some great work, and it'll be good collaboration with knowing each other and making these things grow and be specific to each community and their needs. They've also took part in a lot of the Noa Gunna training, which is that cultural curriculum. All of our workers are, I believe, are mandated, they have to take the programming so that they understand and come from a cultural lens, right? And who we're working with, right? Knowing our audience. There's also internal mentorship, as HR was talking about. So when people come on board, they'll have a mentor that will also help them. That's also happening within collaborative practices. As a new hire comes on, they have a mentor that helps them walk through and learn the positions. And that will be the same within TDM as well. So the Child and Youth Advocacy Center is a really exciting program. That was under Cassidy Chouvera's wing, and she is on mat leave right now, well-deserved. And so we have Veronica that's leading that right now, and it really has progressed significantly over the past year. And they've done this through collaboration with other centers around the province, and as well as the community supports within Prince George that are working in the same sector. The center will be located in Prince George at the same location, I believe, as the new Child Development Center and daycare. And yeah, so that's exciting too. And the center will focus from a culturally safe and trauma-informed lens, and it will be designed with input from community members. So it's in that design stage, I believe, right now, but they're still building their relationships around Prince George community and the province on the work that they'll be doing. Then there's the Calls for Justice and Special Projects team. Julie used to refer to this team as the tiny but mighty team. There was a really small team, but they do a lot of important work within community. Again, this year for that team, they've done some great work. When we look back in October last year, they launched the Strength and Hope vignettes, which has been well received across Canada, and they're even people have been reaching out, and other organizations have been reaching out to ask them to present on this really important project. Calls for Justice is also partnering with UNBC as the 20th anniversary of the Highway of Tears Symposium approaches in the spring of 2026. This work is currently being done within community with members and also along the highway. They're having a focus group this week in Prince George, and I believe they'll be traveling to Smithers in a couple of weeks, and it's really connecting with community members to look at what has really moved forward since 2026, right? With the 33 recommendations that came out of that report. Calls for Justice also has their outreach, and this supports families of MMIWG and MMIP. This has included collaborating with other community supports within the Prince George area, and it's to ensure that there's wraparound supports, because we find that within that practice, there's not been a lot of support for family members that are having to navigate the legal system, right? And so when we talk about that, like I think of BC FILU, and I don't know if anybody's familiar with them, but it's the BC Family Information and Liaison Unit, who support families navigating that system. There's only Brenda Wilson now that's on that team. And so she's one person for all of northern BC. And I believe they've just hired one person through IRSS now to be able to do that support. So it's not a lot. So we've been doing it off the side of our desk for a while, supporting families and collaborating with these other agencies, but we now have a position that does that. And as you heard, we've been supporting the Thomas family through the trial that's just gone on for the murder of Isabel. And so it's just been an honor to stand with them and the community. And so they're doing great work around that. They've also been attending many of the MMIWG community events. They've been hosting workshops within community that empower young women, girls, and the two-spirited LGBTQIA community. One of the other things Special Projects has worked on, and we were talking a bit about that, is about internet safety. A little bit different than the IT safety, but we're definitely going to have to collaborate. But there's been some work around tech-facilitated gender-based violence that was done with Women's Shelters Canada and BC Society of Transition House, so really focusing on how do we make ourselves safe on the internet, how do we make sure our children are safe, and that could be as simple as blocking somebody, right? Or your passwords. And so I think that's something that we can all collaborate together and really even provide some programming or workshops in community around that safety. Special Projects is working specifically on 2 projects currently. That is, let me see, oh, I've gone back, we'll go back. One is Destiny's Project, and Destiny's Project is a project that's focused on intimate partner violence and creating programming for that 0 to 6 years of age. And so how do we interrupt intimate partner violence or gender-based violence earlier in the life cycle, right? And it's just, this is going to be a phased project, so this is the first part. We too are going to be having focus groups. And so I'm going to announce, if you want to reach out to me or Annie Waynard, she might be also contacting communities, but we'll be looking for 5 to 6 participants from community to sit in these focus groups, because it's the frontline workers that can inform us on what's missing in supporting families, right? And so, and we'd really like males to, men to be at that table too, right? To have a voice in that as well. So that's Destiny's project. I skip forward to the Pillars of Hope and Strength. The Pillars of Hope and Strength came out of, let me step back for a minute. Destiny's project come out of the Missing Murdered Indigenous Women Inquiry, National Inquiry, and it's 1.8 of the calls for justice. And that is for all levels of government to address the issues of intimate partner violence. And so that's where that project comes from. The Pillar of Hope was originally from the symposium in 2006, and it was a recommendation to have commemorative markers. So here we are 20 years later, they're finally being fabricated. The first one is in the stage of fabrication. The Pillar of Hope in Prince George, again, it's seeking the funding to move forward with these projects. And so I think the base is going to be in before the snow hits the ground within Prince George at Cottonwood Park. And we are planning for the unveiling to take place at the end of the anniversary of the symposium. And so that's the goal. This is where it's going to be in Cottonwood Park. So if anybody knows where the train museum is, it's over in that area by the bridge. It's a really beautiful area. That's the group. We all went down and had our picture taken. This is some of the city planners, because there's lots of work that goes behind this to have this go along. And the city has donated the land indefinitely for us to have there, which is really great. And so we're excited to unveil that. Sorry, thank you for your patience. This is my first time presenting to you all, but I'm really grateful to be here. And if you have any questions, please.